Hello everyone and good evening. I'm Don Arleth and welcome to Flash News, the only show on tvp.info where Polish is not a prerequisite. We begin tonight with the loosening of restrictions. Starting Saturday, there will be no requirement to cover your mouth and nose while being outdoors. Restaurant gardens will also be open. The easing of restrictions is possible thanks to the decreasing number of infections and the growing number of vaccinated people. Over 4 million Poles have already been fully vaccinated.
Work is in full swing at restaurants as they are getting ready to reopen. For now, only outdoor gardens. We are very happy. It is a very joyful moment for us because we have been waiting for this for a long time and we are very happy. It is a lot of work, but it is such a work with a big smile and good energy. The numbers speak for themselves. The pandemic is weakening. In the last 24 hours, 3,730 new cases of coronavirus have been detected. 342 people have lost their fight against the disease and 2,232 have overcome SARS-CoV-2. Fewer infections don't mean coronavirus is no longer a threat. We all recognize that it is our collective responsibility to decide whether the next steps in the easing of restrictions will be possible. Next steps will be possible if infection rates continue to decline. This is assured by vaccines. Every day there are about 2,000 or even more than 2,000 people vaccinated, so it goes smoothly. We don't have any particular problems with it here. Nationwide, almost 15 million vaccinations have been administered. Over 4 million Poles have already been fully vaccinated. We have 3 children. From them we have 12 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren. Also, we have someone to live for. I made this decision because I have a family, I want to feel safe, I want them to feel safe, and I want us all to get back to normal. Whether the return to normality is already permanent is largely up to us. If society thinks, as it does now, that there is a significant decrease in the number of infections and we do not have to be vaccinated, we will certainly observe this increase in August and September. With parental or guardian permission, 16 and 17-year-olds will be able to register starting Monday.
Along with the spring weather we experienced in recent days, storms have also arrived over Poland. People need to be advised because we could see some hail and some quite strong winds with speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour.
A violent storm took the residents by surprise. The fire appeared momentarily and was extinguished by 7 firefighting units. No one was hurt, but there is a serious property damage. The entire roof of this building burned down. The second element, water, also caused great damage. Heavy rains caused flooding in the municipalities of Szczytna and Duszniki-Zdrój. Here, from the morning, they started to collect sandbags. According to many forecasts, this situation is expected to happen again today, so we are fighting against time. This is the village of Starczów, through which the river literally flowed. Several houses were partially flooded. The road was destroyed. 20 kilometers further in Ciepłowody village, cleaning and counting losses. The water broke through. The fire brigade came, they kicked down the door because we couldn't get out. The kids were going out the window. Half the village is practically flooded, the whole river has overflown and a lot of people have big losses. The water reached in some places up to 70-meter height, flooding buildings, properties and everything in its path. In Silesia it also thundered and rained heavily, that's why some community roads looked like this. Such a chaos was last seen in 1997, but there was not so much mud. A meter of water in half an hour. It was terrible, there was ice here, such lumps of ice laying around. Spring storms, though short, can be very dangerous. In Wodzisław Śląski, rushing stream swept away the car with people inside. When we arrived, 3 people were in a passenger car. This car had previously driven into a place that was flooded. In the next few days, rain and thunderstorms are forecast in most regions of Poland.
Today marks the 40th anniversary of the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II. The would-be Turkish assassin Ali Akça fired 2 shots during a procession in St. Peter's Square, hitting the Pope in the abdomen and hand. The world held its breath in suspense.
This is the belt that John Paul II was wearing at the time of the assassination. Shot and bearing traces of blood, it is a reminder of this. What happened at St. Peter's Square exactly 40 years ago. This day is also recalled by the faithful. I cried, dear God, I was thinking, if only he survived. Everyone froze in a moment. Well, there was the horror that the Pope would soon be gone, the beloved Pope. A Turkish professional assassin, Ali Akça, fired the shot, but to this day it has not been established who the principal was. The bullet hit the Pope's abdomen and hand. The wounded Holy Father slammed into the arms of his secretary, Cardinal Stanisław Dziwisz, who celebrated Mass at the tomb of St. John Paul II in the morning. I see his blood broiling the white papal cassock. I can also hear it repeated over and over again, a fading prayer, Mary, my mother. The assassination occurred at the same time as the first apparition of Our Lady at Fatima. The Pope attributed his salvation to Mary. The Pope often said that one hand was shooting and the other hand, the hand of Mother God, was guiding the bullet. The fight for the Pope's life took place at the Gemelli Clinic. It was on this bed that John Paul II was recovering. It can now be seen at an exhibition in Wadowice entitled I Forgive. We wanted to refer to this extraordinary attitude of St. John Paul II, who already on the way to the hospital, still in the ambulance, said the words I forgive to his assassin.
The entire life of one of the bravest men of the 20th century was an act of great patriotism. Exactly 120 years ago, Captain Witold Pilecki was born, a heroic Polish soldier who went down in the pages of history.
It is hard to believe that this life belonged only to one man. A rebellious child, he belonged to the scouting movement forbidden in the Russian partition. He fought in the partisans during World War I, defending Vilnius against the Germans and Russians. And this scout from a young man, from a young boy, very quickly becomes a soldier. He was awarded the Cross of Valor during the Battle of Warsaw. Afterwards, he developed his passions. He loved horse riding, competed in competitions, but also tried his talents at the Academy of Fine Arts. While painting, he met his future wife. The captain's son and daughter are still alive today. I'm just here to promote the character of this wonderful man. Not because this is my dad, but he's Polish, he's an exceptional man. The Second War interrupted the idyll. Pilecki had been fighting since the 1st of September when the Germans invaded Poland. He co-founded the Polish secret army and volunteered to save the prisoners of Auschwitz, the Polish intelligentsia. There he created a conspiracy network that kept prisoners' spirits up and organized escapes from the camp. The most spectacular one was when two well-armed Poles dressed as SS men drove out of the camp in a car belonging to the camp commandant Rudolf Hess. To people of such incredible courage we owe our existence and our being even today in an independent state. After more than 2.5 years of sending information about the Holocaust from the German camp to the Allies, he decided to escape on his own. He managed to do so in April 1943. His report, which contained information about the mass murders of Jews and Poles, did not interest the British or Americans. He confirmed and reinforced this belief that the Holocaust was happening and that the Allies faced the possibility of stopping at least the rail transports to Auschwitz. After the Warsaw Uprising in which he took part, he did not recognize the Soviet occupation, for which he was arrested, tortured, and during a show trial sentenced and murdered by the communists. His memory was to be erased forever. But the purpose of his mission is that we do not lose our spirit, the spirit of the nation.
We have all heard of the danger that drunk drivers can pose to the public, but this one could have endangered the lives of dozens, if not hundreds. A drunk air traffic controller was found on duty at Warsaw's Chopin airport. Thanks to the quick reaction of another controller, the man was reported immediately and fled the scene.
This is the first such case discovered at the Polish Air Navigation Services Agency. It happened in the flight control tower of Warsaw Airport. A man started his duty, and when he came back from a break, he was mumbling to the pilots. The second controller, acting in accordance with established procedures, primarily secured the duty. He removed the employee from duty, notified his superiors and the police. The controller fled and the police found him in his apartment. As we established, he was tested 4 times. He had an alcohol level of 2.0 in his breath. No, we won't even discuss it here. It shouldn't be here, as simple as that. Reaction time is down enough that it's only a tiny step from a catastrophe. The Polish Air Navigation Services Agency has reported the case to the prosecutor's office, and there is an investigation into the threat to air traffic. The agency wants to fire the controller, but it's not easy because the trade union has to give its opinion. Safety is not a negotiable issue. There is no place for pathological behavior in aviation. Previously, substance abuse testing was voluntary, but now the agency is announcing stricter procedures.
Now we go to some developing news from the Middle East. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, a land offensive is now underway as a barrage of rocket attacks against Israel continues from the Gaza Strip. There have been reports that Israel is preparing for an offensive since this morning. Soldiers and heavy military equipment have been sent to the border with the Gaza Strip. 9,000 reservists were activated. Despite attempts to calm the tension by a growing number of countries and international organizations, there is still no de-escalation of the situation. At the same time, subsequent rounds of rocket attacks were launched from Gaza into Israel. The number of casualties continues to grow. 87 Palestinians have died thus far, and 7 Israelis. Now for a quick flash of world news. We start in the United States, where pipelines that supply half of the East Coast fuel were shuttered due to a ransomware attack. The company said that the pipeline is now operational and that supplies will soon be restored.
Danger averted. America's largest pipeline, the Colonial Pipeline, is flowing fuel again. Deliveries were halted after hackers attacked computer networks of the pipeline, which delivers gasoline to the east coast of the United States. Giant queues formed at gas stations and there were some hand-to-hand clashes. Gasoline prices skyrocketed. The site of the oldest human burial in Africa has been discovered in a cave in southern Kenya. Scientists found the skeleton of a 3-year-old child. They believe that it was placed in a grave 78,000 years ago. Analysis of the skeleton and the surrounding soil indicates that before burial, the body was wrapped in cloth and a pillow was placed under the head. The transportation of the temporary bridge over the River Mosa to Rotterdam could be considered a spectacular sight if one disregards the dangers. 40 meters high and 220 meters long, the structure had to fit under 4 bridges en route. Set on pontoons and escorted by tugboats, it reached the harbor after 4 hours. Soon it will take over the role of one of Rotterdam's crossings, which will be renovated.
Let's change the subject, but stay in Rotterdam, where the sounds of music fill the Ahoy Arena. The Eurovision Song Contest 2021 contestants are rehearsing their song and dance routines to perform their best during the semi-finals. Rafał Brzozowski has already mastered the choreography of the ride to perfection.
Baby, hold on for the ride of your life, high above ground, living it loud.
Musically in Rotterdam, more rehearsals, finishing touches.
I can't wait to say this hello Europe and just have a smile with that.
Rafał, with his song The Ride, will fight for a place in the semi-finals on the 20th of May.
Thank you for supporting Poland. We are of course number 6, so be with us. Thank you.
Because even though Poles at home cannot vote for our representative,
Nie ukrywamy, że bardzo liczymy na pełną...
we do not hide that we are counting on the full mobilization of the Polish minority abroad, which can vote for Poland, that is for Rafał and The Ride.
The Ride.
We would like to remind you that Rafał Brzozowski will perform on the Eurovision stage on the 20th of May, and he's counting on the votes of Poles all over the world.
Are you ready for the sunglasses, guys?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do the sunglass part.
That's right.
Yes.
All right.
Coffee drinkers know all too well the importance of the bean from which one of the world's most famous beverages is produced. So they'll be delighted to learn that a new species of coffee tree has been discovered in Sierra Leone.
For years, the world has been enthralled primarily with Arabica and Robusta. The Stenophila species is not so much new as it is rediscovered. It was once known as the Highland coffee of Sierra Leone. Growers have long forgotten about it. For 60 years or more, no one has taken an interest in the coffee plant that grows in the forests of Sierra Leone. Unlike Arabica and Robusta, it is insensitive to high temperatures, so it can withstand climate change. And here lays the hope that the little black one will survive in spite of the worst-case scenarios. In Friesland, in the northern Netherlands, the Bird Lover Society works closely with local farmers, and they are helped by drones. The idea is to protect the winged inhabitants of fields and meadows from agricultural tools. Drones observing the fields from above record what is below. With this information, bird nesting maps are created. Armed with them, farmers know which places to avoid during field work. Britain's Royal Mail has issued 4 stamps bearing the image of Prince Philip, who died in April, husband of Elizabeth II. They depict the aristocrat in different periods of his life. Philip stood by the side of the British monarch for more than 70 years, always 2 steps behind the titled wife. The prince is in the foreground on the stamps. The wife remains on the side, not to say in the corner. When firefighters from the village of Loriporto, St. Paulo in Sardinia got a call from one of the restaurants, they just knew they were going to the rescue, but not to a fire. There were strange noises coming from behind the wall in the kitchen. The restaurant employees were looking for supernatural phenomena because there was a refrigerator behind the wall. They did not know that there was a gap between the 2 rooms and a kitten had fallen into it. The firemen did not explain how it happened, but they took care of the kitten.
Firefighters will always have a kitten to save somewhere. And with that, we conclude the program. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night.